That's what we do, man's on the grind, that's what we do. Ain't gonna stop, evolving our game on a daily basis. Stay on the top of the game, escaping into the win. We ain't gonna lose, the grind don't stop, but I need your boost, I'll see you at the top.
Right, welcome into today's episode of the podcast where we are joined by Adam Whitelock, a former rugby union player from New Zealand. Adam is part of the legendary Whitelock family, with his father and grandfather having also played for the All Blacks. His three brothers, George, Sam and Luke, have also represented New Zealand first-class rugby and George at the highest level. However, Adam's rugby journey took a slightly different path as he also played for the All Blacks Sevens team and was the only brother to play in the backs. Welcome, Adam.
Thank you, Alistair. It's a pleasure to be on here.
Cool. Obviously, pedigree, mate. We'll start with that. Being in a family, the brothers, obviously, were there any other relatives? I mentioned your grandfather in the intro there. Were there any other relatives other than your brothers and grandfather that played for New Zealand?
There was my mother's uncle, Graham Higginson, played for the All Blacks. And, that was my mother's brother-in-law, Graham Higginson. And my mother's uncle was Alan Elsom, who played for the All Blacks with my grandfather. And yeah, most of them are all forwards apart from Alan Elsom and myself, so I quite often say I was a back in a forward's body.
That you were. Obviously, we'll jump forward a wee bit just to like your upbringing. Obviously, for those that don't know, although Adam did play for the whole of his first class career for Canterbury, his upbringing was actually in fielding. Do you want to talk us a wee bit through that, Adam?
Yes. I went to Fielding High School, where I think was a solid foundation for launching my rugby career. We were only 500 boys in a co-ed school, so we finished 8th in New Zealand 1 year, and we finished second in the New Zealand Sevens competition. But it just taught me the basics of playing good rugby. The first 15 coach was our hostel manager, the late Rick Francis, and my father, Braden Whitelock, was the first 15 coach. So yeah, it really those years were certainly laid that foundation to then come down to Canterbury to join the academy and push on from there.
We'll jump back a wee bit further. So younger years, obviously, I presume it was a rural upbringing on a farm. What did your parents? How did they sort of raise you, and what values did they instill in your early life?
You're really lucky to have a rural upbringing, and Mum and Dad worked hard. We didn't go off farm too much. We made our own fun, and being one of 4 brothers, we were always out possum hunting or fishing, eeling, but working on the farm as well. So we would always milk on Christmas Day, and Mum and Dad would give some of the staff time offs, and we'd always be down there covering a silage stack till it was dark, get the job done, grubbing thistles. But yeah, it was just a way of teaching us solid work ethic. And when we were at high school, we cut a lot of firewood to go on first 15 trips. So if you didn't want to work, you didn't get paid, and then you couldn't go on tour. So it just taught you good life lessons. Your mum and dad started small and have built it up to where they are now. So very hardworking parents. And I guess our forebearers were sort of pioneers. A lot of them are farmers and broken in the land, so that's sort of the history and background.
Are they still on the farm now?
Yeah, Mum and Dad are still on the farm, and George and Kayla, my oldest brother and his wife, have gone back, and they're running half the farm in their own right.
Yeah, that is wicked. Getting on to your brothers, obviously, what was it like having having of similar and enough age in as your upbringing with your brothers. What was it like growing up with them alongside them, and obviously some of the stories, no doubt, in the backyard would have just been outrageous.
Yeah, well, when Mum and Dad got babysitters in one night, we locked her out, and Mum and Dad came home, and the babysitter was sort of crying there, and we were just probably little shits and had to fight down the next day and apologise. But it was quite often Samuel and I versus George and Luke, so the middle two versus the oldest and youngest. So normally made the game quite even, but we'd play out there until it was dinner time. Mum would call us in, and quite often end up in a punch up or someone crying. It was pretty competitive. But I remember, when we were a bit older and we were getting fit, if someone went and ran to the old bus stop, that was 5 kilometres, the other brother might run around the block, which was 10. So we're always trying to outdo each other. And if we were running together, that last 200 metres from the old house letterbox to the new house was a full-on sprint, just winner takes all. So always competitive, but I guess we push each other on. Like, we used to have a chin-up bar, and we'd just see how many we could do and try and beat each other.
The other thing, did you boys have a home
on that? Sorry, I'll just
on you, Daniel.
Sorry, I'll just interject there. Your wife was telling us a yarn about when you're in France, your one of your brothers must have done a marathon. So you just went for a run and decided to do a marathon just in the streets. No food packs, no water, just drinking out of the garden hose. smash out the 42K. Is that true?
Oh, it is true. You've done your homework. Yeah, I guess I'm always competitive, and I prided myself on fitness. I mean, I wasn't a flash player with great top end speed or a big step, but I definitely prided myself on doing the basics, and part of that was getting fit and trying to win fitness tests and just having a massive work rate on the field. So yeah, it was a challenge to run the marathon. I did run it. It was a wee bit silly because it was almost 30 degrees and I didn't have a drink bottle, hence I had to drink out of a hose, ask a Frenchman on the side of the street. So I got it done, but it was pretty tough.
Yeah, good.
That is ridiculous. Awesome though. I was just gonna ask, obviously with that competitiveness, what was the setup like at home? Did you boys have like a home gym, or were you just lifting bales? What was the deal? Obviously you had a chin-up bar.
Yeah, I guess before you get to high school, you never really knew what weights were. So I guess you build up that natural strength of you're lifting hay bales, hunting, carrying pigs out, climbing trees, those sort of things. But we had a massive lawn, and it used to take about 6 hours to mow the lawn with a push mower. So there's plenty of space, and obviously being on a farm, a lot of space to run around. But we did have that chin-up bar, and we had a gym at school that we got into once we, knew what weights were. But it wasn't really until I came to Canterbury that I learned how to lift weights, because you get taught. Yeah.
Awesome. And the other question I had, was it just rugby that you boys were playing, or were you playing all sorts of sports?
Samuel and Luke played a lot of basketball. They had a sort of influential coach when they were at high school, and I think that helped them with their ball skills, like Samuel with his coordination and catching above his head and all those things. I did a lot of athletics, both track and field and cross country, bit of swimming and touch, cricket in the summer. So yeah, I played most sports, just the typical mainstream sports.
Nice.
Were you put in a position where you had to decide at any stage with those sports? Obviously, I've got
I was
here
never really
that
good at cricket.
Sorry, on a bit of a delay.
Yeah. Just reread it.
Yeah, sorry. yeah, I was just wondering if you got put in any position that you had to, obviously choose a pathway, because obviously at Palmerston Boys you had a high school record for the 800 metre. So you mentioned you did a bit of athletics there. Did you have to actually pick a side in the end?
No, I don't think I did. I mean, I enjoyed rugby the most. Doing athletics was just getting fit for rugby, and you're competitive, so it was cool to get a few school records. I wasn't good enough at cricket or any of those other sports to have to choose. Yeah.
Cool. Moving on, Palmerston Boys High School. I listened to a previous podcast. I think it was the Sky Sport Playmakers podcast with Jeff Wilson, and you mentioned that the only reason you went to boarding school was because it was cheaper than feeding all you boys. Is that a true comment?
Yeah, so we went to Fielding High School, not Palmerston North Boys High, but yeah, Mum says they saved on the grocery bill, and by sending us to boarding school rather than eating them out of the house and home. But they'd always send us back on Sunday with quite a bit of home baking, and yeah, and there's a joke, I'm not sure if you heard it before, but being on a farm, Mum used to worm us, and the joke was when we started getting girlfriends and wives, Mum would start worming them as well. So then we would take the girlfriends and wives home to meet Mum and Dad on the farm. Would always make them scrum Mum one-on-one in the kitchen. And normally, you get there, if the girls have been out on the farm, right, chuck some farm socks on and they've got some gumboots, so they're in the kitchen and Mum might just be in bare feet and she just absolutely drill them, staple them up against the sink. So the joke was, if they got out and got the gate or, got up for morning milking or something, it'd be a tick. They slept in or, Mum, too easy for Mum to push them back in a one-on-one, a bit of a cross. So there were more ticks than crosses they came back.
Get initiated, how good.
Oh, that is awesome. Did any brothers bring anyone back that failed that test?
It's probably got to be careful. No comment. It's all a bit of banter. It was just, it wasn't. We're just joking here, but it was sort of just a bit of to wind the girls up. But no, we're lucky to all have. We're all married now and got lovely wives, all four of us. And I think, this year Luke's having his first child, and Samuel, George, and and our wives all have 3 each. So the next generation of Whitelocks is all here. 10 of them, so 5 more to go for a team.
Good.
Yeah, that's awesome. Obviously, moving from a obviously smaller rural school into Fielding High School, was it shock to the system initially? We
went to Opiki Primary, just 10 k's down the road, so there's about 50 kids. In a real rural school, so, take lamb and calf day and all that. And then we actually went to intermediate, might have been 600 kids at Palmerston North. So it was sort of a step up to intermediate, then high school, so not too much of a change. Dad and Granddad went to Fielding, and being 4 boys, Mum and Dad were keen for us to sort of go to a co-ed school. And it served us well. It had a good rugby environment and learned a lot of lessons in the boarding house, and rugby was great.
So yeah, basically, I'm getting a wee trend here. Was it for the schooling or was it for rugby? You going to Fielding?
Yeah, well, Mum and Dad are farmers and done well, and they didn't go to university, so I think Dad says he didn't get school C, but held the most record for Canes as a third former. So there's never any pressure on us to, get good grades. But they wanted us to sort of do well at school at the same time. So I enjoyed school, and I think just by having to do prep, I did quite well, which got me uni entrance and then got me a degree. But no, I think it's never always been about rugby. Certainly, we've all made careers out of it, but we've probably first and foremost always had the farm. We probably all thought we'd just go back to the farm, or I certainly did. But then you do well at school and you uncover a few other different opportunities. So no, it wasn't always about the rugby. I think even in my career, like if you always made it about the rugby and you had a bad game, or your whole week's bad, and But if you're at uni or doing a trade, or you got something else positive in your life, well, rugby's not going well, and your other parts of your life are going well. You're more rounded. Certainly, you got to make the most of your rugby and put your head down and train hard and be focused. But if you've got too much idle time where you're not playing, you just sort of overthink things, and it's not good for your balance.
For you, was at high school, obviously you had your athletics as well. What were, for those young high school athletes listening now, what were those outlets for you when you were that age?
I think like sport was a massive thing for myself personally. So most days I'd go out training, or kicking the ball or playing touch. So that was a big outlet just by being active with my training. So you actually, I guess, you felt good about yourself and you sleep well and you're hanging out with the right people. You're probably doing a bit of hunting and fishing and going back and just working on the farm. I mean, when you're a bit older at school, you can sort of go out and be social and go to the old parties, but I don't think when we were young we didn't do too much of that. We were just so involved in sport. Just keeping busy at school, I guess, and doing subjects you enjoy. Yeah.
Cool. And now I do want to mention the athletics now. So how did the athletics side of things come up for you at high school?
Oh, it was just probably our coach set us goals over the summer to get fit, and we'd come back. So then you're fit and you're just doing well on track and field and those things. But my first cross country, I just ran bare feet, the Manawatu one, and there was a guy from Boys High that was going to win, and I won, and I was in the back page of the Manawatu Standard just running bare feet, and I thought that was pretty cool, so that gave me a bit of a buzz, and I just managed to win, I think, everyone bar one through school, yeah.
Good.
And 800 metres, was that a national record or a school record?
No, just a school record. Like, I wasn't that good. Like, rugby was my sport, but it just got me fit for rugby, and yeah.
Yeah. Do you know if that school record still stands?
Yeah, I think it still does since 1921.
Yeah. I tried to look it up, but I couldn't find it. But that is awesome. So cool. We'll get into the sort of first 15 sort of rugby part of it now. Were you in the first 15 from year 11, or were you a wee bit later than that, or even year 10?
Yeah, year 11 or fifth form, 3 years in the first 15.
Yep.
Played sort of under 14s, then Colts, and then first 15. So played with my brothers throughout a lot of that rugby, and we normally go on a pre-season tour to Australia or the South Island. Later years, I went to the UK, and then would play sort of Manawatu secondary schools, and I played Hurricanes. I missed out on New Zealand schools, and I remember being real gutted, but it made me more hungry. When I came to Canterbury, I was pretty surprised to get a spot in the academy, but it was really those 2 years where literally trained every day a week. And then that year 3, it really took off. Like, my strength went way up. My skills got a lot better. So yeah, for young people out there, like, if you miss a team, you're disappointed, and it's good to be disappointed because it shows you care, but you've just got to, I think it's just resilience, keep getting up, because a lot can happen a year or two when you're that young. A lot of people get lazy, and you can pass them that might have had more talent than you.
Yeah, 100%. You get those early developers, that sometimes they have all the natural ability, and that you catch them up with that hard work and the skill work and the fitness. That often see that sort of getting overtaken sort of that middle years of high school.
That's right.
Cool. For fielding, what were some of the biggest matches that you played in during your first 15 rugby?
Oh, sorry, it just cut out, but did you say what were my most memorable games?
Yeah, most memorable matches and the biggest rivalries.
Well, it was great beating Palmerston North Boys High, because traditionally they were a strong school and fielding was never that strong, but fielding the last 20 years has produced a lot of All Blacks and great players. So when we beat them, it was the first time in years, and so that was great. We had, might have been 6,000 watching that game at Manawatu at the arena.
Wow.
Winning the local finals were always good. Playing in the hostel versus day boys, I had all three of my brothers. Luke was the third former. I think he just came on for a wee bit on the wing and beating the day boys, so that was cool, all playing together. First 15 rugby, just anyone listening that's first 15 and really enjoy it. It's some of the best rugby you play, a lot of passion and doing the school haka and traditions. Once you leave school, you got a full-time work and you just get pressed for time, and so really enjoy your first 15 rugby.
Yeah, I had here in the notes, did mention that Borders Day Boy match with your brothers playing in it. Were there any other opportunities for you guys to play together other than that?
When we were growing up, George and I were probably 5 and 6 and playing the same team. Sam might have been 3.5 and just jumped on the end of the game. But Luke would have still only been 1. So, but I definitely I might have mentioned when I spoke to Jeff Wilson on that Sky interview, but when we played the Stormers in Cape Town, all 4 of us brothers played, and then Ben Fennell was a cousin. He was on the team. So there's a third of us sort of on the team that were related, but we won tough that game. We might have won by 3 or 5 points, but they had a lot of South Africans. We'd lost a few and had a lot of All Blacks out, and in Africa we were might have only been 22 or something. We were quite young, so that was memorable. I think a pre-season game against the Hurricanes, all 4 of us played with the Super Rugby jersey on. Certainly. My first Canterbury game, there was 3 of us. When you finish and you look back, you're really proud of it and you appreciate it. Sort of at the time, you don't take. It's not that you don't take it for granted, but you've done it since you're 5 or had your brothers there, and it's so cool.
Yeah, is there any other family with that many? I think it's been the Barretts obviously have 3, but there's no other family with 4, is there, that have played that level?
I don't think so in Super Rugby. You might have had the Clarks in the 70s that played for Waikato.
That's good knowledge.
I think there's a league family, the Burgess brothers, which have similar. I think there's a Sam and George and maybe Luke, but certainly in Super Rugby, I don't think there's been 4.
No, it's incredible.
Yeah, seriously special stuff.
You've obviously got lots of brothers or people play at different eras or different teams, but all on the same field at the same time is probably something that will be hard to beat.
It's pretty.
They must have been shorter players that year, maybe.
No way. Cool. So obviously post high school, the move south, you head down south to the deep to mid south, I call it. of Canterbury to study accounting at the University of Canterbury here. Obviously, how did that come about for you?
Yeah, Mum's from Culverden, and we used to come down when we were young fellas for school holidays and stay on the farm up in Culverden. And then always liked the Crusaders. I got a Crusader jersey when I was about 10, and I was keen on going to Otago or Canterbury, and I luckily got a scholarship for Canterbury with Canterbury Rugby Academy. And so I guess I was half red and black with Mum coming from the area and having some history down here. I was the first Whitelock to come down, so I always say I paved the way, but I still remember I just got my Hyundai Sonata and left home and caught the ferry, come down. I only knew a handful of people, a few family up north, but overall people. And now when I think, I've had a rugby career and met my wife down here and kids and, my other jobs I've done, I just know so many people in it, and it's a place I call home. I mean, home is a farm, but home for me now is in Canterbury.
Cool. Nah, beautiful. And then obviously you made your debut for Canterbury at 22, so obviously there's a few years there in between. Who did you play? Who were you linked up for club rugby wise, and what did you sort of do? Did you have any jobs and stuff while you're at uni as well?
Yeah, I was full on at uni studying the seven or so papers. Did the uni halls, which is great, had a good time and meet people. Then went flatting for 2 years, good times. I joined High School Old Boys. I didn't really know which club to join. I knew Colin Slade was down there, so I wanted to play outside a good 10. And so I didn't really have any strong affiliations, but that worked, and we managed to win the Colts final, and then the first 3 years of senior rugby, we won the titles there, and a lot of those guys came through and played for Canterbury. But in holidays, I was sort of training, and then I did the old sort of student job search, and I remember working in town, like just labouring for a few weeks, and I was like, wasn't that challenging. It was sort of a bit mindless sort of stuff, so good to do and a bit of pocket money, but probably was like, nah, just keep playing rugby and try and crack it there and keep it uni. But when we were at school, we'd always work on the farm and get pocket money growing up. Yeah.
What made you pick accounting to study?
Oh, I thought like just getting some sort of. I always knew I'd want to create my own business or just learn some skills, and it was good to get a degree, but I'm not passionate to become an accountant. I sort of just say I did commerce, and I've done a bit of rural banking, and now I'm at Bailey's, which is you use a bit of that and a bit of finance and a few skills you've learned, but a lot of it is just working hard and communication and doing those things right.
Yeah, nice.
I'd like to dig a wee bit deeper into your club rugby. You mentioned obviously Colin Slade was a part of that, the slide there, and you mentioned a couple others went on to play for Canterbury. So who were those guys?
Yeah, we sort of just singing from the forwards out. We had Mike Coman that was sort of there, and Steve Allfield, we had Colin Slade and Hamish Guard, and I played centre, and then James Patterson on the wing.
Oh.
So we had a pretty stacked back line. My brother George played a bit, and then he went up and played a bit for Culverden. Reuben Thorne was at the end of his career and came back and played a few games. So there's a few other younger guys that have come through, like Reed Princep and guys like that, but they're a bit younger, yeah.
Oh, wow. That's awesome, eh? That is absolutely awesome. And then you're 22 now, and you make your debut for Canterbury against Wellington. And you obviously went on and had a further 56 appearances. I certainly forgot after doing a wee bit of research actually how much you played. You had 56 for the Canterbury and 54 odd for the Crusaders. So you played plenty.
Yeah, I was pretty proud to get your name up to play over 100 games for the Red and Blacks alongside my three brothers. So there's sort of at least 400 games, and seniors played 177 for the Crusaders. So, and I think George and Luke, I think Luke's played 100 Super Rugby games, and George was pretty close to it. So I know over those times I had a few injuries where I missed 80-90% of the season, and not saying you'll be selected in all those games, but if I ruptured my pec and had a few sort of knee operations, maybe you could have clocked up a few more. But I mean, to play that many games, I'd love to play more, I think, but pretty proud to just knock up a few anyway. At the time, you don't think of it too much. You look back now, and it's quite cool.
So it was pretty easy going for you. The first year you made your debut, Canterbury actually went on to win 8-7 in the final that year, and post that, they also won the title for the next 5 seasons.
Yeah, so I think being part of the team for six in a row, and then the year I left, we lost the semi. I was quite proud that last game I got voted players player, voted by the players, so I knew I went out. And maybe I probably could, in hindsight, stayed a few more years and just keep playing a bit of New Zealand Sevens. But I was only 28, but it was good to go to France and experience that. The rugby was a lot different over there, but I felt like, in that last year I was really fit and, improved my game a lot. So, but to win 6 in a row, we certainly set goals of doing that, and I know the Crusaders now won 6, and when I was in the Crusaders, we unfortunately didn't win a title, but I had 2 losing finals and semis, so I guess sort of 12, 13 seasons were always semi-finals or above. So you're rubbing shoulders with some pretty elite sportsmen, and all those goals, and you learn how to come together as a team and play and certainly aim to win. And some that you don't win, it's a bit of bad luck or just a little moment in a game that goes wrong. So it's the way it goes.
I just want to ask a question for sort of coaches and managers of any performing teams. You mentioned goals were put in place. What did those goals look like to allow the team to perform to that high a standard?
Yeah, I think like you might have heard Razor talk of this about before, but when you take a step back, like it's set, when coaches and management set the goals, the themes, you're going to win the competition, and they associate a theme with it. So that's Muhammad Ali or someone you might pull out, look into his career and look what worked well, and use a lot of words and pictures around that. And then as you come down, like the forwards and backs have goals, and then mini units have goals, and then you come back to your individual goals. And it's sharing it with your coach and your players, and then it's just sort of working it out on a season, and then you pull it back to a week, what you got to do in a week, and then what you got to do in a day. So you're just creating habits and routine. You're doing your weights, your review, your recovery, and then your team training, and then your extras, and you just get on this roll. And so you do that for long enough, all those habits you'll get better. But one thing I learned is you got to have massive self-belief. You got to be humble on the outside, but have a lot of self-belief in yourself and within the team walls. A lot of honesty. You need it straight from your coaches. But before you can get those hard conversations, you've got to connect, have a lot of team building exercises, know that you care, and you sweat together. So if you tell your mate that you need more out of them, or a coach gives you the hard word, well, you see it all as feedback, and you're not getting all defensive. But just inspiring goals with music, with themes, with plastered all around the changing rooms, connection points, just so we used to greet each other in the morning, just so we bones, and it's just more than, just saying hi from the other side of the room or not acknowledging anyone, because you're all together. Culture you got to practice every day, and just show that you care. Invite the families, invite the wives. Have the kids there. acknowledge first players, their first game, give them a tie, like sing them a song, have team songs, acknowledge 50 games, whatever. You got to celebrate small successes. There's a whole other topic. I could go on and on.
We'll dive a wee bit.
I was pretty keen to hear about the themes. So, every year did they have themes throughout the whole every year you played? Like, has that been a pretty constant thing, or is it something that just came in later on? I think it's a massive Razor thing. So
yeah, I know Wayne Smith and that's probably had an influence, and even Robbie, but your Razor's really probably been one known for it. I mean, I think just off the top of my head, from 2008 to 2014, it was like Live the Words You Speak. Then it was like Back to Back, Greatest Forever, I think. Muhammad Ali, Ronald Munston, who went to the South Pole, the Kenyan sort of warriors. There's all these things. So we sort of built them into the campaign. So one of them was like Ronald Munston was the first in 1905 or 1910, around this time, to go to the South Pole. And Scott and a whole lot of other explorers had gone the other way and were taking donkeys. So Ronald Munston was a Norwegian explorer. He went through the mountains and he took dogs. And so he was like ruthless and well planned, and he shared his goals and that with his team. So for example, ruthless, because once they got to the South Pole, he worked out that they would have no more food. So on the way back, they had to shoot a dog to eat to get back. So we all got a bullet to be ruthless. And so on our defense, we would have analogies around that being ruthless on defense. But with innovation, we would use technology or think of other ways to play, keep ahead of the curve. And enjoyment and all that was a big part of it. So switch on, switch off, and all those sort of things. Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, it's pretty. It must take a lot of time to create that stuff. It's pretty impressive. But must be quite motivating.
Well, it is when you've got all your team, doing all the individual goals, which is great, and unit goals. But when everyone's aiming for that big picture, it's a feeling, and you can only create that by everyone buying into it, but you need the coaches to lead it. It's pretty special, and you create momentum, right? Like success breeds success, so you know what works, and you're sort of adopting that for the second year and the third year.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, that's a seriously awesome theme. You made me buy in straight away with all that. So that's pretty cool. I was gonna ask you what has been your favourite theme throughout your years playing? Was that one that you just mentioned then your favourite?
Well, it was cool because we won the final against Wellington in 2013, and we chucked the old flag and we're at the South Pole. And it wasn't anything disrespect to Wellington; it was just our theme, and that was quite cool. I was on entertainment committee a lot with Andy Ellis, and I was the player rep for the NZRPA. So I got to see that side. But I'd always organise lots of barbecues and entertainment before serious meetings and challenges on and off the field. You might just bring in a bench press and get all the management just to max bench press and see who won, or 100-metre sprints, and you'd have bets on it with the police dogs chasing. Just all these sort of light-hearted things, because you can get quite serious, and it's just knowing when to switch on and switch off a bit.
Well, speaking about that, I was talking to Robbie, and he said you have a decent talent, Robbie Fruin, of course, of the Andrew Voss commentary for a bit of team hype.
I'm not going to do it. That'll. I don't know how that started. It was sort of on tour, because you have a tour guide. Robbie was the tour guide.
Yeah.
And music. Music man. Yeah. I was never going to be on music. Get abused, but I used to be entertainment, and so we, for a bit of fun, they used to name the team we'd get in personalities come and name the 15, and the odd time, on the bus, we would get up on the front of the bus and Pete Paulace would be Ray Warren and I'd be Andrew Voss, sideline.
Very good.
Oh, that is awesome.
And then Marshall Suckling actually just got back to me, like right now. He said, "Can you ask about the carpool karaoke experiences?"
I don't know if I did too many of them. I think Marshall might have came in just after I was away over in France, perhaps. But
oh, right.
But you had a lot of fun, because having fun. You got to enjoy it, and that was a massive part to our success. But you actually built fun into the day. You knew when it was time to have a laugh, and we knew when it was time to serious stuff now, boys.
It seems to be Razor's superpower. Just seems to knows how to turn it on and then make sure everyone's enjoying themselves and relaxing the other time.
Yeah, well, he you probably heard, he's a good communicator, Razor, and he knows the different personalities. And you got your sort of farming lads and your Polynesian boys or quiet boys or extroverts, and it's just how you communicate with those different personalities to get the best out of them. Some boys need a pat on the back and some encouragement. Some need a rev up, and it's just knowing which one needs what,
Yeah, and treating everyone. Yeah, but working to exactly to the way they work rather than just treating everyone the same way. Yeah. Nice.
And then obviously you move into the Crusaders environment from the Canterbury environment. You then obviously you're playing with living legends. You'd Richie, you'd Dan, Brad Thorne would have been in the mix with you during that time. Obviously your good mate Robbie Fruin, we've had him on as well. What was it like going into that environment from the Canterbury environment, which was already obviously first class?
Yeah, they're different. Like Super Rugby, they're both challenging, but you got a lot of international players. Probably a bit tougher competition. You're playing across 3 continents, and there's not as much time perhaps in Super Rugby. Any team can sort of beat you on the day, where perhaps, not that you'd ever want to turn up playing for Canterbury and think you got the game in the bag. That was never the attitude, but you might have a 90-point win some weeks.
Yeah.
Super Rugby is a bit different, but pretty cool playing alongside those All Blacks, and just learning off them. I think probably my first day in the academy, you're whatever you were, 19, going to the academy, and you're going into Rugby Park, and these sort of Chris Jack and Justin Marshall might be finishing off their weight sessions or coming in for physio, and you're in there at 5 o'clock doing your weights. And so from day one with Canterbury, you're sort of mixing with the current All Blacks, and then I think that's good about the province. It shows that it's not just they'll put over there on a pedestal, they're sort of rubbing shoulders with you.
Yeah, cool. So obviously that Crusaders environment is renowned for that. Say, obviously you've been in a couple of team environments. What was the biggest difference between, like, say, a Crusaders environment to obviously your French environment as well?
With the French environment as well? Well, there's quite a bit of pressure, in the Crusaders to actually win a title. We'd lost a couple of finals and hadn't won since 2008. So I think that pressure sort of built in a few years. It might have, we were trying our hardest, but we couldn't quite crack it. It was almost like at Canterbury, we just had that formula. We knew how to win. Going over to France, I was probably in a team that was not as professional, and they were at the bottom of the table. So that was really hard, because you're always in a winning environment when you go to one that's getting pumped. But you just knew you could see so many things wrong, but it was not a quick, easy fix, because they're all quite proud and they don't a lot of them don't listen, so you better sometimes just you can't control everything. So not that I have all the answers, but it's quite frustrating because you can't speak the language. And there's some really good coaches over there, but there's some terrible coaches as well.
You end up being fluent by the end of it, though, right? Or pretty solid with French.
Ah oui, bien sûr. Quand je suis parti, je ne peux pas parler français. Maintenant, je peux parler. Très bien. So I learned, and I did a lot of lessons. So it was good for the mind, and read the old story to the kids in French.
Nice.
I want to try to keep it for life, you know. I talk to my brother Luke, you know, if I'm driving to work and he's in France and we can talk in French. Yeah.
Nice.
Awesome. You mentioned obviously your Chris Jackson, your Justin Marshalls. You're obviously, as a young guy or new to the environment, I should say, who really did make you feel welcome at the Crusaders from day one?
Like Andy Ellis was great, and Chris Jack was good, you know, when I was in the academy there. Used to see Dan Carter used to be quite good friends with my flatmate, and he used to come around party at ours quite a bit. You know, he was a world-class athlete, but he used to love, you know, just having a good time and that. But it's funny, yeah, you sort of, the more you play with some people, you better get to know them. And yeah, I think everyone just sort of helps you along in their own sort of way when you're rooming with them or playing alongside them, yeah.
Awesome. We'll jump ahead. So All Blacks sevens. Sir Gordon Titchen's era. Is it as crazy as it seems, the Sir Gordon Titchen's era?
Yeah. You go up to camp and you hear all these stories, and we did a Bronco and I won that, and but then he didn't tell you after you're doing shuttle sprints. So I just had gone as hard as I could on the Bronco, and I was absolutely stuffed. And then you had a chance to do, like, I think it was like three reps at a certain pace, or you had to do like 6. And I remember towards the end of those reps, like I was pretty buggered, but I think he's respected me just sort of pushing it through to the end. But yeah, I mean, when you play games of sevens, it's not like 7 minutes. He'll never tell you how long you're playing, so he could be playing for 12, 15 minutes, but it's sort of on his clock. And he used to do these 80, 60, 40s where I think it was under 30 seconds or under a time you had to do. Each time you didn't get it, he would add it on. But it's like, right, we're doing shuttles, and if you know you're doing 10, you know, mentally, you know, I think I was always try to go hard in anything, but there's always a few, 3 to go, you might just quite not be at max, and then that last one, you know, you're just trying to finish it strong, but it could have been, you know, 23 you're doing, or, you know, so you don't actually know. So it was sort of those mind games with just not knowing when the end of training is or how many reps. So, and then also when we went on tour, we used to get up early, and he used to love you getting in the sea or a pool, getting in the pool. But if your first game was at 11 o'clock, you know, a sevens game, you'd be down at the park at 9 o'clock on the way, you know, 10 minutes before the stadium, and doing little shuttles and doing a little mini blowout, and like all the other teams are driving past. And then a few years later, these other teams start doing it. So I think his mentality was like, you get your second win. So in your first game, you know how like you go out for training sometimes, in that first 5 minutes you're blowing, and then, you know, minute 10 you're sort of away. So I think his theory was, if it took you 10 minutes, well, that's almost the game over. And if you weren't, you know, once you got that good sweat up, you're sort of away. So I also think it was a bit of just a mindset saying, like, look at us other teams, how fit we are. We're doing a bit of fitness. Like, we're not scared of anything, you know?
Yeah. Okay, good.
Seriously hard-nosed, eh? So, yeah, what were your highlights of obviously putting the black jersey on?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, probably like, the first game I came on against Samoa, and then I was officially, had worn it on the field. Because when you get named, like, I just remember, like, the feeling, like, it was such a cool feeling. And then, like, I remember just, like, sitting back and going, wow. And then it's like, oh, cool, am I going to bring my parents now? And then just hearing their excitement. And then, like, beating South Africa, like, when we had a really good team and we won the World Series that year. But then, like, I started against South Africa, who were sort of second, and we had to sort of win that tournament. And we beat them like 12-7 or something like that. I scored a try, but I just remember it being a real physical game, even though it was sevens, and it was like, you'd always see us going up against South Africa, and it was just this, I remember the hits were hard, and it was just full on, and we won, and it was like, you played okay, and it was quite cool. And then winning those couple of tournaments to win the World Series was great, yeah. But
Awesome. I do want to ask, obviously, being a fit man, what was your personal best Bronco time?
4:18.
Ooh. Is that who the Crusaders? Is it Andrew Ellis? Is Ellie still got the just over that or just under that? Or
yeah, I'm not. I think I'm not too sure. I haven't really kept up with it, but
4:18.
I think last I checked, he had the record.
Yeah.
Holy.
Yeah. What's Bowden Barrett's one? He's got
I think he's running a 4:12 or something.
4:12. Yeah.
So it's still pretty sharp. Nice.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Obviously, for those of you that don't know, Adam's a very tall man, and he was 108 kgs in his prime, so he's shifting a lot of inertia during that time.
I was probably about 102 when I was sort of my fittest, but I'm probably at 110 now. But
man, that is serious numbers.
Weight. Good.
Nice. Awesome. And then after that, you headed off to France. How did that opportunity come about? Obviously, you just recently debuted for the Sevens, and sort of just starting that sort of era of your career, and then this France opportunity came up.
Yeah, I mean, I missed out on the Commonwealth Games. I was sort of non-travelling reserve. But I hadn't played a lot for Crusaders that year, and it was a bit frustrating. Like, I was fit in that and only had a few games. So the Sevens was great to get invited up there and then make the team. And then I remember just talking to my agent, and he was saying, Adam, I'll put the feelers out. And we just so a couple of opportunities came back from France. And I actually at that time didn't really think I was going to go. And then it was sort of like, well, will this other opportunity come up? I think I had one more year at Crusaders. I was like, well, if I'm not going to play much, am I better to go over and do a few seasons? So, yeah, I mean, I love playing for the Sevens, and, perhaps looking back, it would have been cool to stay back and try and play a few more years there, but hindsight's easy. Going over to France was a great opportunity for 4 years, and went with my wife, and we got engaged just before we went, and so it was a special time of our lives. And when we got back, we've got 3 kids under 4 now, which is a special time in our lives with young kids. But we're over in France and travelling the world, and learning about European culture and speaking French. It's just a wee bit unfortunate, I had quite a few major injuries over there, and dislocated my elbow, which healed, and I could only bend it like that for a whole season and just squeeze a rugby ball, and I had to come back to New Zealand to get it fixed. But when I got injured, the team went down, and I couldn't really do too much about it. Not saying if I was there, we would have stayed up, but the team went down, and we lost a lot of players. So your salary gets sort of cut in half, and so it was a wee bit unfortunate. But I've had plenty of luck through rugby, and there's just a bit of bad luck. So I would love to be still over there playing, but at the same time, I'm back now, and I'm settled with my family, and I'm sort of moving on with the next stage of my career. Did 10 years, could have done a few more years, but you got to be happy with what you've done, I think. Yeah.
Was there somewhere you wanted to go that you didn't get the chance to go?
Yeah, probably like would have loved to have a couple of years, maybe another year or so in France and a year or two in Japan, like ideally. But yeah, once we made the decision, to come back, and it seemed right at the time. There was probably the first few years of probably, it was tough. It was hard to watch rugby because I felt like I probably should still be playing, but I'm sort of a fan now. I love watching it. I don't miss playing too much now. Like, I really love going to the gym and running, but yeah, probably just had a few of those bad injuries and ended up just sort of coming back a bit earlier. Yeah, but at the time, you'd played for 10 years and you felt like it was done quite a bit, but you retired for a long time. But yeah.
I mean, it's in there when you look at it from perspective, like some guys. I mean, I think isn't the average professional rugby career about 3 years, because there's so many guys that drop off or get injured, or although some do manage to get 15 years in, or Sam's played 350.
Yeah,
it's pretty rare, that, isn't it? Really, like that's sort of kind of the exception.
Oh, you think about it, 5 Super Rugby teams, or say 30 in the squad, might be 150 full time, because sort of NPC sort of semi-pro. You sort of have to be playing club rugby, or you're working or doing a trade or something. But yeah, I think I've heard stats around 3 years. There's probably good opportunities to go overseas, if you can't quite crack it to the high level here. I think do the best you can in New Zealand, because you're going to grow the best, but get the best out of your rugby in New Zealand with the best coaches. You can always go overseas at any stage. There seems to be lots of opportunities.
Yeah, nice.
But yeah, with Sam playing 350 games, pretty proud. Like, I mean, there's a lock, all those trainings and scrums, and he doesn't get injured, touch wood.
Yeah.
Yeah, so pretty awesome achievement.
Yeah. So I kind of sat back a wee bit there, because it was this is Alistair's sort of Alistair's the rugby nuffy, but I was really keen to dig deep into sort of the mindset and after rugby stuff. So everyone that we talk to has really identified that the mental side and the mental toughness and your mindset is, a massive part of your quality of you as a person and a feature of your rugby. Just a couple of examples. Andy Ellis said you have an incredibly strong mindset that could push yourself outside into dark places that others couldn't consistently. Robbie Fruin said you're the epitome of perseverance and hard work. And he said he'd love to know how you developed that mindset and who helped you with it. And then your wife said you're incredibly motivated and do anything you put your mind to. So, yeah, could you just enlighten us about how you developed that mindset, and did you get any help through sports psychologists or just coaches, or something you just worked on yourself? But what got you to that point?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think so. Those accolades, I mean, proud of who you are, right, and what you've done. But hopefully, I'm sort of come across humble as well. And yeah, I respect those guys. They're all got their great men, and my wife's obviously amazing person as well. But I mean, how did I develop that? I think, I don't know. I think like just sort of being one of 4 brothers, you're always competing. Probably just that upbringing on the farm where you're out hunting, or you're working on the farm. You sort of have that rural upbringing, which just sort of lays a bit foundation. But I think, setting your goals high to like win, be a winner. Now that I've finished rugby, I use a lot of what I've learned in rugby into my career at Bailey's. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I'm always trying to pick up things. I think, try and do something crazy, and then the harder you train or the more pain you push through, or when you're, in a game that that you've sort of gone to the edge, and it might be a bit easier.
Yeah, so you learnt those through practical experiences rather than sort of sports psychologists or did you have any sort of sports psychologists that you worked with or anything like that helped?
Yeah, I think like my earlier years, it wasn't a big thing in rugby, but towards the later part, it was good. And maybe when I was young, I didn't really understand it too much. But now when I reflect, I can see how important it is as you just mature a bit.
Yeah.
No, so sports psychologists are good. Just probably observing other like great athletes and seeing what they do, seeing their habits and routines, Like it's good to listen and read books and, talk about it, but it's sort of your routine so that they make you, who you are. Yeah. Actually putting it into practice and going to some of those dark places, Like I knew that I'd get through 100 Ks or run. It was hard, but I knew, when it was tough, you just think of when it was tough at footy or something.
Yeah, nice. I've heard about your epic morning routine. Can you kind of run us through how that looks?
Oh, you've done a bit of homework. But I mean, I like a challenge, and I probably won't go into too much depth, but I think back, like the workers on mum and dad's farm are up at 4 o'clock in the morning. They used to work 12 days a week, then 2 days off and do that. We were pretty privileged at rugby. You get up at gentlemen's hours, you go to the gym at 9 and train at 11 and be knocked off at 2 and, you might just go have a massage and that. But so you trained hard, but we had a really privileged environment, people that are labourers or, overseas, less fortunate, they're working massive days or on the farm. So I was like, once I finished rugby, I was like, well, I've got kids and I'm building my next career. Like, how am I going to get ahead? So I was like, well, if I get up at 4 or 5 in the morning, I'm going to win 2 or 3 hours and I get stuck into it, do my exercise, do a bit of meditation, inspiration, my vision board and all that. Like, then it's going to set me up to like smash the day, like still go out and work an 8-hour day because I'm not starting at the bottom because you're using your sporting experience and life skills, but you are starting again in your next career after footy because you go 20 to 30 playing rugby and now like you're trying to build your career. So I was just like, I've got to do something way different to the crowd, and if the crowd get up at 7 and go to work, well, no, I've got to get up earlier. And so I've done that, for 4 years since I've been back in New Zealand, just getting up really early. And I think it just, if you put that first hour to yourself, like running, sometimes I go for a run at 4:30 in the morning, but like if you do that and like meditation, I would have never done that as a 22-year-old. I just think it's sort of a bit of a strange idea and just a bit new age. But when you're so busy, taking 10, 20 minutes out, just breathing and relaxing and taking a calm moment, well, throughout the day, if you're in a stressful situation, if I'm at Bailey selling a property, you just can handle pressure so much more. And then when I'm back, you're more present with people if you've exercised and, you got your own house in order. I do have a routine that I've sort of got all mapped out. I'm a wee bit adaptive now because I might have kids wake you up at 1 in the morning and, things like that,
Nice. Yeah, I think the meditation thing, like, I think people don't really understand until they've tried it or like they think just it's some sort of like a bit of a, hippie sort of thing, but it's literally just training your mind to, have some, I mean, I think one thing I've noticed, I don't do it a lot, but I'm wanting to do it a bit more often. We don't get bored these days. Like we're on our phone, we're listening to podcasts, we're at work, we go to the gym. Like there's just no downtime. Like our brains never get a chance to just relax. So I think it must be like huge to be able to give that our brain an opportunity to kind of reset and start the day right. So yeah.
Oh, 100%. I think like, don't get me wrong, like to get ahead, you got to put in the hours, and that was me because like, I had a certain amount of talent, but I wasn't, say, the best first 15 player, so like it was hard work got me there. But you got to go hard on that. But I think it's almost just taking time to shut out the noise, so you actually like you go inwards, and you actually like get happy and content with yourself, and you're actually in control and calm, rather than always being reactive to the external world for phone here and this and that. But if you're really like got yourself in order, then you can go out and lead people. So I think with the morning routine, that sets my day up well.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, 100%. So the other side of it was the fitness, which we've already kind of touched on, but just a few anecdotes from the guys as well. So Andy Ellis said he said you're the most aerobic beast, insane aerobic beast he's ever met. Robbie said you're a massive headache for him pre-season, as you'd always win pre-season testing and win all the on and off the on the field and in the gym. Razor said you won all the fitness tests, your pre-season awards for effort and being tough, and you're the most diligent guy around. And then, I was just mentioning your wife mentioned about they're going for a run around just deciding to do a marathon because your brother did. It's pretty effort.
Yeah.
Do you is the fitness something you enjoy as well as, like, you know, if you weren't a professional athlete, you think it would be just something you would have done anyway?
Yeah, like I think even sports like rowing and those sort of ones would have been really interesting. I mean, to be a great biker or runner, you've probably got to be 70 kgs, but
yeah,
you know, like you know, some of those sort of sports I might have went down the road of perhaps. But no, I just think, like, you know, when you're fit, you got a clear mind, you're happier, you got more self belief and confidence. Yeah, it's just a simple thing. I guess everyone knows it, but you got to sort of do it.
Yeah. Once it becomes a routine, it's actually not as hard as this as like a lot. I think people is the biggest hurdle for most people, I think, is starting. You know, and just doing it continuously, like, not rather than. Like, getting to the gym is probably the hardest part. Once you're there, it's like, I think, like, I actually really enjoy, the movement and challenge. Like, I used to just do sort of a bit of just general gym stuff, but the CrossFit's kind of been my new thing, just to make it a little bit more challenging. So that's been quite a cool change. So, So the other pillar that there's this quite a common thread, was that you're a big family man. So can you tell us a little bit about how the family shaped you? Your wife Tiffany said you're an amazing husband of 3 little kids, and you love family time and adventures with the family. So yeah, can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh yeah, that's nice to hear. I guess, yeah, my parents, you know, supported us and 4 boys, and you know, just the opportunities we've had. Yeah, I think, you know, I'm working really hard, and you got to do that to get ahead. But I also know that I want to block out times on the weekend, or say when I get home from work, I'd sort of just try to leave my phone in my room and just play with them and really, really be present, because they're only little once, and should be your number one priority. I mean, it's actually important to get, you know, yourself as your number one priority, because then you can help your family. So I don't like sitting around doing nothing. I mean, so I always like taking them out to the beach, or just on a little adventure, or entertaining them when I can on the weekends, spending those times with them. You know, because soon they'll be into sport and that, and we'll get them going with Saturday morning sport.
Yeah, cool. Nice. And then post rugby, obviously careers, you kind of mentioned it before. So I think you did a little bit of dairy farming briefly, then rural banking, and now rural real estate with Bailey's. How have you found that transition, and what have you been able to bring from your rugby to your professional career as a at Bailey's?
Oh, I think it's just self-belief. Like, you're setting up your weeks, setting little mini goals, and just creating good habits and that. You know, like, if you're going to the gym, right, you got these times, and just setting out 20 minutes after training, right, I'm going to do 10 minutes of tackling, and then 10 minutes of sort of passing under pressure. Just setting out times during the day to, you know, get better at work, getting coaching, or, you know, making my calls, or it's just bringing those habits and routines from rugby, the belief in setting those goals, and that, getting the right people around you. No, not you're getting help, you know, because you get your backs coached with your skills or defence. You know, Bailey's just getting different managers to help you, learning, going to lots of training events, keeping open-minded. But it all comes down to sort of working hard, but also just having a balance. You know, didn't want to blow out, so I think keeping your fitness up and all that. Probably, you know, saying no to a few things for me is a good step. And not trying to do everything or be a perfectionist, because that'll free up time. So you can get pulled in lots of different directions. So that's a big work on for me. I think I'm getting better at. But yeah, I'm enjoying Bailey's. Like I'm sort of all over Canterbury, and you think about it, like being brought up on a farm, having rural banking experience and some farming experience. Like now I'm out helping people buy or sell properties, and a lot of people recognise you through the rugby, so it might be a conversation started. And some people to have no interest in rugby is fine. So I guess you just meet people over your careers, and might get a foot in the door, but you just got to connect, do the right thing, live by your values.
Yeah, nice, awesome. And then lastly, before we there's a couple of questions from our viewers, but hunting and fishing. So hunting, fishing, and the great outdoors is kind of your escape, I guess. A couple of stories we've got. Your wife mentioned one day you're on a boat fishing and you lost a fish out the back and just dived in, re-caught the fish and brought it up yourself with your hands. Is that true?
Oh, you dived down 20 metres and fended off great white and grabbed the fish and fed me. No, yeah, I did that. Come over for the cause, Like,
what type of fish was it?
I think it's just a good-sized blue cod, yeah.
Wow, nice.
Oh, how good.
And then Alistair's got a couple.
Yeah. So, I've actually been in touch with a cousin of mine, Adam, James Austin, down there at Pleasant Point.
Yeah.
And I've got all the details, but he's mentioned something about a wallaby and a pole.
Yeah.
Do you care to share the details? I'm happy to spill them
like
if you're
the
not.
cheeky buggers down there, like Sam Bell. I'll just name him, and James Austin, and can't remember, might have been Joe Moody. We're just out wallaby shooting, and they'd gone out a night or two before and shot one and put up against the pole. Come around to the first gate, there's one, bang, bang, you missed it, and I was like, no, and go over there, and it was tied up against the strainer post. So,
brilliant.
I'll just under the bus him and keep telling you all the stuff he said. He said you also used to drive your partner's Volkswagen, yellow Volkswagen to trainings. Is that true?
My girlfriend's Volkswagen.
Yeah.
It might have been. Yeah, might have been my wife's from time to time. Yeah, but I mean, I drive a Ford Ranger with a dog box, but I had a flat tire or I was getting the service. Probably not the best look turning up in that.
He also says you've got no ticker chasing pigs up the hill.
Who says this?
James Austin.
I find that hard to believe.
It's all good.
418 on the Bronco. No way.
I want to see a race. I want to see a race. That's a challenge.
Oh, James Austin's got no hope in hell of keeping up there.
I've done a bit of hunting down there, and I saw James last year at another event we went to. So
that's your that's your kind of your outlet, your escape to.
It's probably like at uni, you're sort of doing uni, and then once you're playing rugby and you don't have kids or you're not married, hunting was a major hobby and it was good fun, just out there with your mates and a bit of meat for the old spit roast for the boys end of season. Or I organised a hunt for 24 hours for the Crusaders pre-season in Kaikoura. So we got all that meat and we got it all butchered up and seafood and all that for the year.
Nice.
So that was good team building, but had a lot of good times on the hills with my brothers and just a good hobby now.
Yeah, cool, nice. Got a couple of questions from the viewers. Your old Canterbury teammate Rob Thompson.
What's he said?
He said, "How many hours did you clock up stretching the day before a game?"
Robbie and I have a bit of banter, but I guess we used to sort of when you're away on away game, you might have a stretch it down in the team room at 5 o'clock before dinner, and I guess you might be down there stretching and talking shit and yarning, and I I guess Robbie and I, both from men or two, I took him under my wing. He was second five and centre in a few club teams. We won a few finals together, and Robbie's gone on to have quite a successful career. So it's just probably a bit of banter.
Where is he playing?
He's over in Japan. Yeah, he calls me as sort of his mentor, but yeah.
Nice. Tommy Anosa, one of my colleagues from school, he wanted to know who were the other gun trainers, like fittest, strongest guys you played with.
Yeah, I mean, like, of course you want the halfbacks and loose forwards and that to be the fittest. It's sort of part of their role, but I mean, Andy was a tough little bugger. He was, only a lot lighter, so he should be fit. But he was tough, like he would, say we were boxing him, he wouldn't back down, even though he might be 20 kgs less than you. Of course, I mean, you have respect for all your brothers and that. They'd always go hard. I mean, obviously Richie was very fit, and Willie Hines and Tom Marshall. But then, you needed your speed guys as well, like guys I played with, Sean Maitland and, Izzy Dag, they all could, and Zach, they could all run fast. So you needed that as well, and guys that could kick off both feet. And, Matt Todd and guys of that were just hard, like, good tackler, fit, strong, tough, played that. Those guys were sort of machines. Brad Thorne was sort of towards the start of my career. Everyone's sort of got their own strengths on and off the field. Some guys are really good at reviewing games and talking in front of the team and might not be the fittest, but they bring that to the team. So it's just realising where everyone's strengths are.
Yeah, nice. This is a bit of a, I don't know, this one of your colleagues from Bailey's, Joel Everson, he asked who's the tallest person at Bailey's. I'm assuming he's tall, is he?
Yeah, he's tall. Joel's just a wee plug for Joel's just in the business brokering team there, and he's a good kid, just plying his trade. I'm giving him a few tips here and there, take him under my wing. But Joel, he's doing well. He's probably the tallest.
Yeah, how tall is he?
Oh, he'd probably be 2 meters something, yeah.
All right, wow. How tall are you?
He's a former.
You're 6'4", something like that?
Former lock, Daniel.
Oh, just under 6'4", 190, I think.
Yeah, nice. And then the last one was, can you tell us through, these are the nicknames we've managed to track down. There's Crazy Eyes, Zeus, Code, and Herb. Are they all correct? Can you tell us where they came from, if you're allowed to?
Oh, Zeus, yeah. The rugby boys call me that a bit. Crazy Eyes, it's just probably one individual's put that through. I think I was on a photo where I had a photo and I had Crazy Eyes. Herb was sort of just another smaller group in the rugby where sort of everyone was Herb. But and what was the other one?
And Code. I think I heard someone in the Sevens guys calling you that.
Oh, Code, yeah. I think, yeah. Oh, yeah. There's a bit of a yarn to that, but I'm probably not.
Fair enough. Nice. All right. Before we wrap up, Alice has got quick fire 5 general knowledge questions at the moment. Robbie Fruin was 1 from 5. Todd Astle 1 from 5, maybe 2. No, 1. I think he was 1. Amy Satterthwaite was 1. And then what was Luke? Did Luke get 1 or 2?
I think he got 2.
What do you mean?
Luke Fiso. We had the CrossFit
2.
New Zealand CrossFit champ. I think he was 2, wasn't he?
Oh, that got in the questionnaire.
Yeah. So you've got, there's plenty of room for improvement. Good luck.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
First of all, I'm having a bit of trouble.
There we go.
Question number 1. Which from the following vegetables has the highest calcium content? Carrot, turnip, potato, or broccoli?
Turnip.
No, incorrect. Broccoli.
The wrong farmer. The dairy farmer.
Yeah. Question number 2. Which of these golfers is left-handed? Nick Faldo, Phil Mickelson, Tiger Woods, or Thomas Bjorn?
Bugger if I know. Thomas Bjorn.
Incorrect. Obviously not a golf fan.
Big
Phil Mickelson's left-handed.
All right.
Which spirit is used to make a Bronx cocktail?
Oh gosh, that's tough. Never heard that.
Do I not get an option?
No.
Oh, it's rough.
It's a spirit.
Whiskey.
No. Good guess, though. Gin.
Got two
Shit.
chances. Two more chances.
This one's got a couple of options, Adam. Ice Age was released in which year? 2006, 2000, 2002, or 2004?
Ice Age. It's the one with that like bloody thing with a long neck on it, eh?
Yeah, the wee.
Yeah.
What is he? I don't know what he is.
Oh, I'll just go in the middle. 2004.
Oh, 2002.
Oh,
One more. Get on the board. One more.
Okay. On a standard dartboard, final question. What number lies between 2 and 10?
Oh, that's tough. I don't know what that would be.
20.
Oh, that's a really good guess. 15.
Oh,
That's tough. I would have got the Phil Mickelson, but I had no clue on the rest of them. That's tough.
Sorry, Adam.
He stitches everyone. He stitches everyone up. Don't worry.
Yeah, don't worry. They're all tough.
yeah.
Thanks so much for your time tonight, mate. We really appreciate it. Our listeners there's so much gold in there, like starting, I'll tell you what, one thing I noticed, not all of our guests so far, but a lot of sports, like there's some seriously good sports people who come from small towns and farming backgrounds, so there must be something about that. But yeah, just telling us about all that, your journey through the Crusaders, Canterbury, Sevens, then playing in France. And then for me, the mindset and that fitness stuff is real gold. So I think there's so much we can learn from your story. And thanks so much for sharing that and giving us the opportunity to have your time. And our listeners will be, greater for it. So all the best with the rest of your the career in Bailey's. You started off pretty strongly, and look forward to staying in touch and seeing where that goes for you.
Yeah, thanks, Dan and Alistair. Enjoying Bailey's, and if anyone needs a hand with buying or selling rural real estate, give me a call. But no, great to just reflect on my journey. Hopefully, help a few people out there. I don't know everything, but I know telling my story will help, especially a lot of young people. So you reach out to me on Instagram if you got any sort of real, sporting questions or just some good positive questions, and I was trying to help you out. I'm happy to help young people. I like giving back, but. Thanks for having me on here, and go well, guys.
Thanks so much,
mate.
Adam. Cheers heaps.
Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the Evolve Your Game podcast. Hope you've taken some insight and enjoyed what we had to offer today. Make sure you like and subscribe and share on your socials. Tag us. We would like to see who's listening. And we'll catch you back next week on the Evolve Your Game podcast.